Learning mainly how to deploy our posts, okay? That's the main thing that we're learning how to do with regards to floating passes. It's understanding that point where your weight has gone too far to one side and you have to deploy active posts, so that'll be the descriptive term that we're using. You look over here, a couple principles, head above garter. That's the one we're working on tonight, and we're gonna try to get into compressing. If we get into compressing, that's fine, but if not, we've got a couple weeks set aside to do just this. Head above garter and deploying posts. So here's the first thing that I want you to understand. Go to a standard butterfly, makeshift butterfly. All right. Garters here have got to be able to do what Seth is doing here. Okay, they're gonna have to be able to get some elevation forming here so that I can start working on deploying my post. Now, not necessarily being held up like that, but nonetheless, we still need to have some good elevation capability. Now, there's a couple things that you guys can do on the bottom here to kind of help yourself out. This is a two-sided affair. All right, so what we're wanting to do here is we want to understand how to be multi-directional with our elevation, all right, from the guard standpoint. From the passer standpoint, we want to learn how to deploy those active posts and be able to quickly retract those. So somebody tell me why I would need to be able to quickly retract it, very quickly. What? Somebody? They can't grab it. Can't grab it, I heard that. Somebody may have said it, but that's the reason. Because the minute that I deploy a post and I'm here and he grabs that sucker and starts to pull this back in, well, now that post becomes a liability. Okay, so we have to be able to shift posts and remain active. All right, now hip switching will come into that here in just a little bit, but we're going to break this down into bite-sized pieces so it's digestible. So garters have to be able to use a good hook here to kind of give some elevation. The easiest way to do this is when they're standing. If you don't understand how to use butterfly guard, you need to flare their knees out like Seth is doing. Flaring the knees out and then elevating is exactly what I'm looking for. A lot of people will try to keep their knees inboard and try to elevate, and their feet tend to slide right up into that critical V. Okay, we don't want that, all right? So first thing he needs to do is he needs to displace my knee line. By displacing my knee line, now I understand how to elevate. So the first thing I want you guys to do, if you don't understand how to use butterfly guard effectively, you're gonna learn this week and next week. You're gonna go to butterfly guard, hands on your hips for bracing, okay? He's simply going to deflect the knee line on and off, right? So as he goes, he's moving my knee line, and then I want him to elevate to start to get your feet up off of the mat. That's all I want him to do right now, so he understands how to be a good dunker. Phase one has to be done for his benefit, not even for ours. While this is happening here, what I want you guys to do is, I want your hands here so that in the event you lose balance, and one of you will, promise. If you lose balance, I want you to try to get to your first active post, which is going to be your hand. Okay? I'll explain the elbow concept in a minute. Hand elbow. Okay? So, deflect the knee line. Push-pull is a big part of it. In, out, elevate. Okay? Left, elevate, right. Quick little drill. No more than a minute apiece. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Same. Now we're working on head above garter. So here's what happens. Okay? First thing I want to do is as soon as he elevates and as soon as he gets my body off of this vertical plane and I start to collapse and start to fall forward, I need to make sure that my head is above his head. I'd like to get my chin above the top of his head, because what this does, if I fall down here and I deploy my post and my head's here, he now has access to all this and can stretch me out and start working me back that way and him this way, giving separation. I don't want that. I want to try to get my head above his, and I want my post to the point where I can pull myself forward, drawing myself up. And in effect, what I'd like to do is as I draw myself up, what's that do to his hips?
Compress.
It elevates his hip line. With his hip elevated, he has far less options than he does if I'm out here working at range and at the end of his guard. Okay? So as he hits me into this butterfly position and he starts to elevate, whoop, active posts!
Oh my goodness,
hey man, you
Seth's
did it,
neck
bro.
almost left the
I
chat.
caught myself and did what I was supposed to do. Okay, so as you go down, as he elevates, I want my head above his, and notice active posts have pulled me forward. Now we're just Supermaning right now, but I want to be pulling to where, look at his hips. Notice his hips are up off the mat. Okay, back here, look what happens. He can now put me down. He can start to stretch me out. He can do all kinds of nasty garbage to me that I don't like. Okay, so what I want to do I want to make sure I deploy above the head. Okay, so my partner is going to elevate to the point where I go here. Okay, as I fall forward, post got to deploy. Okay, now, if he starts to, I want him to move a little bit. Okay, so as they move a little bit, I need to be able to use my feet as well. So he deploys, or he flips me forward, my post deploy. Now I'm looking to move back a little bit, but I'm always keeping my head above his head. And I'm essentially floating on the top of his guard. Make sense? Now they have not got to compress yet. That's the next step. Close. Okay. Deploy posts, we're only on the hands right now, hands and feet. Have them move you around some. Now your partners, grab the gi. If I had mine on, suffering, y'all would know. But I don't have it. I don't have it on because it's hot. Grab the collars and just hold mid-chest to hold them up. That way your hands can offset them high, low, left, right, whatever. Want them to be doing kind of this number here. Moving the posts around. Let's go 1 minute apiece. 1, 2, 3. Kill. So when I get in here to kill, our first goal is to get to kill. Don't make me look bad. I did this for like 2 weeks. Now my next goal with this guard is to do one thing to it. What am I trying to do to it? Huh?
Compress.
Compress it. Trying to compress the guard. Okay, that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. We get in here trying to compress this guard. Now look at this from a phase 2 perspective, and not so much from a completely separate, idea or perspective of guard pass. Get into here, and this guy does a really great job of kind of clearing it and elevating. As soon as he gets my sleeves, he elevates. Boom. Now look at what happened. Okay, I'm here. Essentially, if my head is over his body, I'm accomplishing the same thing. I'm still compressing his guard, am I not? Bringing everything in, and I'm up over the top. My fight on the top is to keep my head, my chin above his head. That's my fight. If at any point in time he's able to bring me back down into this realm here, I'm down in the functional end of his guard play. Now he can start to do all kinds of stuff. But as long as I'm up over the top and I'm fighting to stay above him, keeping his guard compressed, I'm accomplishing the same thing as I do from here. Make sense? Same thing. Except I'm over his head, elevating his hips up off the mat. Okay? So the compress. Now here's where this gets a little bit difficult. So from here, when he elevates, my whole goal, and he puts me down, and I've got to deploy my posts. Once my posts get deployed, I'm floating. Now I have to compress my body inside. I have to draw this up, and I have to start climbing. Because now, look what happens. I start to punch through his guard. Notice that? I'm shin trapping on top. We're pummeling up top, playing the foot game up top, and I punch through the guard from directly over the top of it. But my head has to be up here. So the part that we have to understand is the compression. Where that comes from is right here in our core. So essentially, I'm doing this. That's what I'm doing. Okay? While I'm over the top of his guard.